If the walls of a hospital could talk, they would have some of the most intense stories of grief and death around. But on the other hand, stories of miraculous recoveries and childbirths. This combination of mixed emotions and energy makes them susceptible to the paranormal, and it's usually once everybody has disappeared and the place is abandoned that this comes to light. So from America to South Korea, here are 5 eerie hospitals that are believed to be filled with paranormal activity. Sit back and enjoy. Nocturne Hall Hospital. Located in Lincolnshire, England, the Nocturne Hall has a dark and rich history. For starters, it was burnt down in 1841 and completely rebuilt, then used throughout World War I as home to Norman Hodgson, who was eventually called up for service and allowed the house to be used for American officers wounded in action. After returning from the war, Norman sold the house and it was eventually acquired by the Air Ministry and turned into an RAF hospital. More wards were added, along with residential buildings, and the hospital started to be used by local residents. But after the Gulf War, the hospital was sold privately and fell into disrepair, remaining that way ever since. What's left of this beautiful old building is now a magnet for ghost hunters because the original building was believed to be haunted by the ghost of a girl who roamed the halls, in particular one of the bedrooms within the hospital. People who have stayed in this bedroom claim to have been woken up at precisely 4:30 AM, only to see a young girl crying at the foot of their bed, mumbling about a devilish man. It's thought she is the ghost of a young servant girl who became pregnant by the hospital owner's son. Desperate to avoid the inconvenience of this, the man murdered her and disposed of her body in the grounds of the hospital. A grey lady is also thought to roam around, along with several patients who lost their lives after receiving horrific injuries at war. In more recent years, the dilapidated building has been targeted by arsonists, which has added to its eerie appearance. Despite this though, a lot of the original features and signs remain, and it's still frequently visited by people wanting to experience its paranormal activity, and take a tour of one of England's most haunted abandoned locations. Old Changi Hospital. Built in 1935, the Old Changi Hospital in Singapore was originally a Royal Air Force building and remained that until the Japanese occupied the area in 1942. This is when the building gained a reputation for a more sinister reason. It became a prison camp and base for the notorious Japanese secret police, and it was rumoured that they were using it as a torture chamber to punish a selected few unfortunate people who were deemed anti-Japanese. The information is hard to find, but the building had one room in particular that was said to have been used for such procedures. In there were heavy chains on the walls and 2 concrete blocks on the floor. One Australian soldier, a lieutenant who survived his treatment at the hospital, said he had a wooden spike hammered into his eardrum, which left him permanently deaf. After the war and the tales of torture, the building reverted back to a hospital until its closure in 1997. Since then, it's been abandoned and has become one of Singapore's most popular paranormal buildings. And with an old morgue, body fridges, an operating theatre, and the small torture room, you can see why. The most popular reports are of people being led further into the hospital by what they think is a friend, only for them to disappear and be left alone. Others have witnessed a small boy sitting, staring into space, and after seeing him, they become overwhelmed by a sense of sadness. And shadows and screams have been reported in the hallways, believed to be that of the many horrific tortures that were said to have been carried out. But it's not just paranormal investigators who have experienced things. In 2010, the hospital was used for the set of the film Haunted Changi, and during filming, the crew experienced lots of paranormal activity, including a lady with what was described as a black aura, and lots of shadowy figures that they could not explain. The Old Changi Hospital is ranked as one of the most haunted locations in Singapore, and given the country's huge amount of haunted locations, that is a serious statement. Kempton Park Hospital. This state-of-the-art facility in South Africa opened in 1976 and had high expectations. Then on the 26th of December 1997, it suddenly closed and everything apart from the patients and staff was left behind. Since that day, it's become a hotspot for paranormal activity and ghost investigations. And despite being guarded 24 hours a day, it's said that if tipped, the security officers will turn a blind eye. Despite its modern appearance, the place looks incredibly eerie, especially the paediatric wards, which still have cartoon characters on the walls and deteriorating baby incubators. The entire building, in fact, is full of rusting items, beds and wheelchairs, along with burnt patient files and x-rays all over the floor. The operating rooms are still very recognisable, and so is the eerie morgue with its broken slab and fridges that once contained dead bodies. But the hospital's creepiest feature is the blood-splattered walls, floors and equipment. Now, it's unknown if this is a result from when the hospital was active, or if it has been put here by trespassers to add to the atmosphere, which it sure as hell does. Looking at the photographs, it's not hard to believe this place is haunted with all the death and illness that took place here, and you can see why it's South Africa's creepiest and most haunted hospital. Gyeonggi Psychiatric Hospital. Located southeast of Seoul in South Korea is the long-abandoned Gyeonggi Hospital, and with its depressing grey exterior, smashed windows, rusty doors, and tales of patient and staff deaths, it's regarded as the creepiest building in all of South Korea. The story started to unfold after its sudden closure in the 1990s, with claims that the families of the dead were not given proper explanations for why their loved ones had passed away behind the hospital's walls. Even to this day, there is an unknown number of deaths with no official acknowledgement or reasoning. So what was going on in there? The rumour is that the psychopathic owner of the hospital was responsible and carried out hideous experiments on his patients, even keeping them in cages. When people started asking questions, he abandoned the place and fled to America. True story or not, now abandoned, this place is creepy. So creepy in fact that hundreds of people a year break into the boarded up building. Once inside, it's obvious that the place was left in a hurry, as the equipment, including beds and mattresses, are still there. But this isn't the only thing that was left behind. It's said the ghosts of the many tortured patients still remain, and a variety of paranormal activity has been experienced, such as moans and voices, along with cold spots and shadows in the rooms that seem to have no explanation. All of this, and the previous tales of cruelty that went on, has made this one of South Korea's most notorious and haunted buildings. Taunton State Hospital. Built in 1854 in Massachusetts, this hospital was originally called the State Lunatic Hospital, and was purposely built to treat the mentally ill and insane. Despite it being designed to care for the patients with compassion, however, it soon followed the path of many hospitals at the time and became a dumping ground for members of society with severe mental illnesses. From there on out, the patients were inhumanely treated and often met their deaths, filling the building with negative and dark energy. But this isn't the only reason for its supposed hauntings. That is caused by what took place in the basement. It's thought staff at the hospital used the basement to perform experiments on the patients and carry out bizarre satanic rituals, offering their dead bodies as sacrifices to the devil. These rituals are thought to be the reason why strange markings and blood covering the basement walls has been reported. One staff member, in fact, was unable to get past the last step in the basement after he became overwhelmed with a feeling of pain and terror, which caused him to quit his job. But the rituals carried out down there seem to have caused paranormal activity all around the hospital. In the areas that are still in use today, patients and staff have reported seeing a faceless man wearing white, walking down the corridor before fading and vanishing, and the same figure has also been seen crawling along the walls and standing in corners, leading many to believe this is some kind of evil waiting for a sacrifice. It's also not just the hospital building itself where things are seen, however. The surrounding forest has experienced paranormal activity such as icy drafts and strange lights among the trees, and even the cemetery there is believed to be haunted. Rumour has it that a patient escaped one night and hid there, only to run back to the hospital terrified after he said a hand grabbed him and told him to leave. Because parts of the Taunton State Hospital are still in use today, this is easily one of the most haunted, still operational hospitals in the United States. And although hospitals are not a place anyone wants to be sent to, this is definitely one you want to stay away from. So there's 5 believed haunted hospitals. I hope you're enjoying the Creepy Marathon month, and if you can't get enough of it, then check out this creepy playlist for my personal favourite paranormal rated videos to add to your Halloween month. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next video.